He was known as the man who had everything: wealth, power, reputation. Maxwell Grayson, a self-made millionaire, stood tall among the city's elite, hosting grand parties where the champagne flowed endlessly and laughter bounced off marble walls. Yet beneath the gloss of his world lay arrogance and a cruel sense of humor that made others small just to make himself feel taller. It was during one of his opulent soirees that the story began. The night that would change not only his view of others, but also his own soul. The invitation had been meant as a joke. His friends had been sitting in the parlor that morning, sipping aged scotch while mocking the help that kept their mansion spotless. Maxwell had chuckled, waving his gold watch in jest. "Maybe I should invite my cleaning lady to the gala," he said. "Let's see how she handles a real crowd." The room had erupted in laughter. "Do it," one of them urged. "Bring her. Let's see her reaction." Maxwell smirked, amused by the idea. The cleaning lady, a quiet, dark-skinned woman who spoke politely and kept to herself, was the last person he thought could belong in a ballroom filled with silk gowns and diamond necklaces. So, he sent the invitation. A golden envelope embossed with his family crest, hand-delivered to the tiny apartment where she lived. Her name was not important to him then. To him, she was just the maid. But to her, that invitation meant something deeper, not mockery, but a rare chance to stand tall in the same world that so often looked down on her. She worked tirelessly every day, polishing floors, wiping windows, and clearing away the remnants of others' luxury. When she opened that invitation, her heart raced. She knew it was strange, perhaps even a cruel jest. But something in her refused to shrink away. "If they want to see me," she whispered to herself in the cracked mirror, "they'll see the best of me." The night of the gala arrived. Maxwell's mansion was glittering, crystal chandeliers dripping light like rain, a live orchestra playing soft classical tunes, and guests in shimmering gowns whispering about fortunes, mergers, and vacations. Maxwell, wearing his signature tailored tuxedo, laughed as his friends reminded him of the guest of honor he'd invited. "Did she actually say she'd come?" one of them asked mockingly. "Who knows?" Maxwell shrugged with a grin. "She probably doesn't own anything fit for this place." They all chuckled, sipping champagne, unaware that the sound of heels clicking on the marble stairs would soon silence them all. The doors opened, and in she walked. The room fell quiet, as though someone had cut the music. Every head turned. There she was, radiant, confident, and breathtakingly regal. The same woman who had scrubbed floors now stood at the top of the staircase wearing a long, flowing golden gown that hugged her gracefully. Her hair, once always tucked beneath a scarf, now framed her face like a crown. Her posture was straight, her chin lifted, her eyes calm and powerful. Even Maxwell, the man who had summoned her as a joke, froze mid-sentence. For a moment, he couldn't recognize her. The murmurs began. "Who is she? She's stunning. Is that the cleaning lady?" whispered one of the guests, shocked. The woman smiled faintly as she descended the staircase. Her every step deliberate, confident, glowing with quiet strength. The orchestra, sensing the moment, shifted into a slow, elegant melody. And when she reached the bottom, she met Maxwell's astonished eyes with the grace of a queen addressing her subject. "Good evening, Mr. Grayson," she said softly. "Thank you for the invitation." The words cut through the air like silk against glass. Maxwell, suddenly unsure of himself, fumbled for words. You came." "I was invited," she replied, her voice steady. "And I don't turn down an invitation. Especially one written in gold." His friends exchanged nervous glances. The laughter that had filled the mansion just hours ago had evaporated. There was only respect and guilt. As the night unfolded, she didn't cling to walls or hide in corners. She danced. She talked with poise. She discussed art, history, and even business things she'd learned through late night reading after her long shifts. The guests, initially condescending, found themselves captivated by her wit and insight. Even the most sophisticated among them couldn't deny her presence. When one of Maxwell's associates asked what she did, she smiled faintly. "I help people make their homes shine," she said. "And sometimes, I help them see what truly needs cleaning." The men blinked, unsure if she meant the floors or their hearts. Maxwell watched her from across the room, his mind spinning. For years, he'd measured worth by wealth, by possessions, by titles. But this woman, standing in the center of his ballroom, had shifted something inside him. She had no fortune, no power, and yet, she commanded the room as if she owned it. His arrogance began to crumble, replaced by admiration he didn't know how to express. Later in the evening, as the crowd thinned and the music softened, he approached her by the grand piano. "Why did you come?" he asked quietly. "You knew it was a joke." She turned to him, her eyes kind but firm. "I came because I know who I am. And no joke, no invitation, no man can define that for me." The words struck deep, slicing through the wall of pride he'd built around himself. "You shouldn't let others decide your worth either, Mr. Grayson. Money fades. Character doesn't." For the first time in years, he felt small, but in a way that made him want to grow. "I owe you an apology," he said softly. "No," she replied. "You owe yourself a change." Then, with a gentle smile, she walked away, leaving him standing in silence as the golden lights flickered around him. By the time the last guest left and the music faded into memory, Maxwell's heart was not the same. The woman he had once overlooked had become the mirror that showed him his reflection, and he didn't like what he saw. The next morning, instead of calling his chauffeur or checking stock prices, he went to her small apartment. He didn't bring flowers or gifts. Only a sincere apology and a promise to treat people differently. She accepted with grace but kept her dignity intact. Word of that night spread across the city, not as gossip, but as legend. People whispered about the millionaire who learned humility from a cleaning lady who walked into his party like a queen. And Maxwell, forever changed, began using his fortune to uplift those who had been invisible. Funding education, supporting single mothers, offering scholarships to workers' children. As for her, she continued her work, but now she walked through the city not as someone unnoticed, but as someone who had inspired change. People smiled when they saw her. Some called her the woman who showed up like a diva. But she wasn't chasing attention. She simply lived her truth, knowing that dignity, confidence, and grace could never be bought, they had to be earned. And that night, Maxwell's laughter never returned the same way. He had found something far more valuable than wealth, humility, respect, and a deep admiration for the strength of a woman who refused to be small. So, the next time someone tries to laugh at another's expense, remember this: one person's joke can become another's moment to shine.